Everyone, it's Dr. V here. I am just so happy to be joined by Dr. Christy Nitrrouer. Am I pronouncing your last name right?
You got it.
Nitrrouer, awesome. And we are here to talk about this incredible resource, this event coming up for anyone interested in diversity, equity, inclusion specific to like ability-based accessibility. I kind of want to change the title on. I'm going to change the title on this whenever we go back because I like thinking about it in terms of like instead of disability, like where are we on an ability spectrum? So what's ability-based inclusion? Like it more neutralizes it. But I digress. I'm getting on my soapbox before we even get in like the big picture. So please, Christy, tell us about yourself. What do you do? And how did you get involved in this work with the Disability Inclusion Accessibility Committee with the Society of Industrial Organizational Psychology? Woo, what a mouthful. I'm going to go on mute.
You nailed it. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. V. My name is Dr. Christy Nitrrouer. I'm an assistant professor in the management area at Texas Tech's Rawls College of Business up here in Lubbock, Texas. So my background is I am an industrial organizational psychology PhD. I got my PhD from Rice University, and I'm now starting my third year here at Texas Tech University. My area of research, of course, like many in this space, is stigma broadly. And I always tell folks the more minoritized the social identity, the more interested I am. And certainly when I came into my PhD program, I had a huge passion for people with disabilities, or as you're qualifying it, along the ability spectrum. And that really bled over into my research. So I definitely see myself now as trying to position myself as a disability management researcher. And so immediately the Disability Inclusion Accessibility Committee, DIAC for short, started just a few years ago. It's just about 3 or 4 years old now. And so when it started, I immediately joined. I was like, these are my people. And then quickly, it just became an opportunity to join in a leadership capacity. And we tell everyone on our steering committee, and I will share it, scream it from the rooftops. It really is the most valuable external service work that I do because we get to do research in our service. So it's just been an awesome group to be part of.
A quick question, and kind of like combining like your work as a management professor with your work in SIOPs, DIAC as their chair, like what research, like ahas, implications, best practices do you then try to like push down through your work, through DIAC and through like the types of resources that y'all put out there, especially because especially as like, so something I love about our field, about IO psychology, is being a scientist practitioner. And I'm more of like a practitioner scientist if we're going to be like technical about it. But for me, being more in the field and more with like our clients and HR and DEI leaders and executives and whatnot, I need to know what the 1 to 3 things from research, evidence-based, practical implications that I can boil down and say, listen, if you do this, if you have a more diverse board from a both gender and a race ethnicity standpoint, you're going to outperform your competitors with a less diverse board. I have data in my hand, good data, to prove that. I don't need to give them the whole journal article, right? They don't want to read that. They don't have time for that. I don't want to read that. So what would be some of like those like key points from your research that you then would recommend for those who want to build a more inclusive, ability-based inclusive workplace?
That's a great question. So I think 3 do come to mind. The question sort of started around how does this trickle down sort of within SIOP? And I think something that we've done really well as a committee is we've made not only like our committee, of course, becomes visible through these, but initiatives that sort of promote accessible SIOP. So we've worked really hard to reserve not just the front rows that can sometimes make people feel kind of on the spot or spotlighted, but also like the back rows in sessions. We have an entire multi-part booklet of inclusive conference presenter guidelines for posters, for presentations. We're working now on trying to get something on the podium that just is like the top 3 things you can do quickly, like turn on your captions, like a very quick, easy thing to do. And just repeating questions. There's some just very basic inclusive practices that we have actually a survey subcommittee in our DIAC committee, and we go back through all of the membership survey and post-conference feedback, and we're able to work with the membership committee to have them segmented out by people who do and do not identify as having a disability. And we know that those practices really make a difference for our members. So that's really important to us, and I like that because it's action-based research. Now, putting my more research hat on, I would say, some of my personal research work coming out of my lab and my collaborations, I think of 2 things. And one is, of course, a lot of our work is in selection and recruitment, because so many people, particularly the types of individuals I'm interested in, those who have intellectual disabilities or developmental disabilities, or those who have historically been excluded from the workforce completely and have the lowest employment rate of any type, they just have trouble getting in the door. So educating employers on how to change their traditional way of hiring and selecting to be more inclusive. We just had actually Target in my class yesterday, their directors of stores here in Lubbock, Texas, and they were talking about how they exclusively use video-based interviews now. So it's structured interviews, but they're all video-based. That's all their HR person does, is review video-based interviews for their positions. And I was really excited to hear that, because we know for people who have disabilities, they just don't perform well. Certain disabilities in particular, they don't perform well in the traditional structured interview environment. And there's a lot of examples of SAP, Special Eastern, a lot of companies that are reorganizing the way that they onboard people who are neurodiverse, people with disabilities, in a way that's much more inclusive, much more friendly. SAP has a program where they just invite people to basically spend time with recruiters and like build Legos. And I'm not saying that this is a one size fits all, but there's definitely.
Oh, I think we got a little bit of a bad connection. Hopefully Christy can jump back in. And so while we're waiting for Christy to jump back in, I did want to share something with y'all, the whole purpose and the urgency of us meeting here today. Here, let me try to get this going. Let's do this. Yeah, okay, here I am. All right, so come to this event. It's free. If anything that Christy shared on this call was interesting, relevant to you, if you have a passion for more accessibility for those who identify as having disabilities in the workplace, you can learn from all these experts, so like people from across the world. We have people from London, Virginia Islands, like how cool. We have people who are entrepreneurs, people who work in universities, who run nonprofits. So like all these people who are doing this work. It's also a bunch of IO psychologists, because it is sponsored by the Society of Industrial Organizational Psychology, the Disability Inclusion and Accessibility Committee. So you're going to have like workplace experts who do research in this area, do work in this area, talk about best practices, and to have like international perspectives, like a global perspective on this, is super cool, especially for those of y'all out there who do diversity, equity, inclusion work, or do, people work, HR work, in global companies, right? So what does accessibility look like from a global perspective? So be sure to come join that. All the information is in the caption. Ask questions in the chat. Christy's here to answer more questions for y'all. We just want to, there's no ulterior motive to it. It's just like a free event, just to share the knowledge and wisdom and experience of how to do ability-based inclusion in the workplace, right? So definitely join them. And I hope y'all are having a great day, and reach out anytime if we can help you build more inclusion at your organization. Oh, I didn't like that at all. I hope most y'all didn't get to the end. All right, I'm getting off. It's Friday.